Hey, today we're going to have some fun and talk about 10 of our favorite video game levels and areas with almost realistic graphics. Whether it's through brute force graphical power or a combination of great art and visual design, just these places and spots really blew us away. There are so many more out there though, so we'd love to see and hear yours in the comments for a possible sequel to this video. Keep that in mind, but let's just get started off with number 10 and talk about the opening level of Battlefield 1. This prologue level is nothing short of jaw-dropping, and I think it might be one of the best things DICE and Battlefield have ever done from a single-player storytelling perspective. They keep it super simple, but they give you the real feeling, the exhaustion, the hopelessness of war, and part of that is thanks to the incredible-looking environment you're in. Now, we say this looks realistic and gorgeous, but we've never seen anything like this. The Great War was unprecedented, and so is the battle they're showcasing here in terms of just how destroyed and scarred the land is. The mud, the water, the blood, the smoke, the explosions, the sparks, the dead trees, the blocked out skies. Everything is working overtime here. Graphically, visually, it's absolutely nuts. Then, of course, you translate this area similarly to the multiplayer map, which I believe is called the Saint Quentin Scar, or technically in French, it would be Saint Quentin. I apologize for the bad pronunciation, but either way, a lot of the areas that Battlefield 1 tries to replicate and showcase are stunning. Next, over at number 9, let's stick with the war shooter stuff with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Two things we want to highlight. First, Fog of War. This is the first mission in the game, and right from the start, just the way the game handles darkness and foliage, it looks like a real photograph. The level is kind of a good way of flexing and showcasing right off the bat, where they're like, hey, that's right, you're playing in a new Call of Duty engine, baby. But the level just kind of amps up, and by the warehouse sequence in the end, when the action truly ramps up, you just get to see how good this game really looks. Then in a more subdued, subtle way, Clean House. This is the early Modern Warfare sequence where you do the house raid in London. It looks realistic just because it's a very well-designed home. It feels like a real place where people live. Thanks to the visual design, thanks to the graphics, thanks to the way they handle sound, and thanks to the way the people in the house animate. It is incredibly gory and shocking, but part of that is because it looks so real. Also, the game just does a really good job with the darkness effects and the night vision goggle effects. It really sells it all completely. Next, over at number 8, there's a lot of areas in The Last of Us 1 and 2 that are worth highlighting in terms of how real they feel and look, but for right now, let's highlight the abandoned arcade type area from The Last of Us Part 2 in Seattle. This spot is actually reminiscent of a lot of the areas you encounter in the first game, just lived in areas like with a bar, with a stool, foosball tables, then the arcade area, which is riddled with arcade machines, air hockey tables. The level of detail is really fun to just stop and slowly walk around and check out and appreciate. From dirty stuff on the counters to the actual graphical design of all the logos on the arcade machines and the skee ball machines and stuff like that, coupled with the rain and the lighting effects coming from outside. I would say the abandoned arcade and really the whole area you explore on your boat, that whole sequence, all of that is stunning and comes off very real. Now, over at number 7, if we're talking PlayStation games, let's acknowledge Spider-Man PS4. Now, we can spend a whole video talking about the open world New York City and how accurate it is, but we're talking about individual levels and sequences. So, the one we wanted to highlight today is the Grand Central Station mission. You play through this mostly as Mary Jane, and it kind of gives you a ground level look at the area. From the shiny, polished floors, to the big columns, to the sense of scale, to the clocks, to the ticket counters. As someone who lives in New York, I can tell you this is a really incredible recreation of Grand Central Station. It looks great from the outside when you're swinging around as Spider-Man, but when you're on the ground as Mary Jane in the place like you would be as a real person, hot damn does it look good. Yes, it's definitely modified here and there because of the story scenario and marketing stuff, like they can't have the Apple Store in there for copyright reasons, or any of the restaurants or anything like that, but still, they absolutely sell it. It's even more fun when you look back at older Spider-Man games. This isn't the first Spider-Man game to feature a mission inside Grand Central Station, and you really just get to appreciate how far they've come. This thing really looks like the real thing. Not to mention, if you're playing the updated version on PS5 with improved lighting and graphical effects, chef's kiss. Next, over at number 6, let's talk Uncharted. First, we'll briefly highlight Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which is still not talked about enough. We'll highlight the first opening area. This is kind of like the setup intro. It's called The Insurgency, and it has you wandering through an Indian market and city area. This is probably the most recent example in a long line of areas that Uncharted has just really nailed in terms of bustling markets. The amount of people going about doing their thing very convincingly, to the amount of detail in the garbage cans, the fences, the cloth, then the detail down to the actual ground floor itself. All of it is very impressive in motion, and it makes you feel like it's a real lived-in place. Not to mention another thing, if we're talking lived-in places, we gotta give props to Uncharted 4's Chapter 4, A Normal Life, Nathan Drake's house, or really Nate and Elena. This house just looks like a real believable house. It's not often in video games you see a place where people live and you really believe they live here. This is a regular old living room, a regular old kitchen. It's a little messy. The bedrooms are interesting. The bathroom is convincing. The computers look real on the table. It's just tiny little details you wouldn't really think of otherwise that they really nail here and sell. Yes, thanks in part to the graphical engine. You know, Uncharted 4 still really holds up in the graphics department, but the graphics and all the detail just make it look so unbelievable. Next, over at number 5, let's talk about something more recent. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Desperate Measures. This is the KGB mission. This is a pretty massive mission where you go in essentially infiltrating the KGB headquarters, and the building, from the lobby to the hallways, everything, it just is convincing. It feels like a real place, down to the polished floors, the garbage cans, the ashtrays, the glass and the windows and the doors. It's just really well designed, and thanks to the pretty damn good graphics, it just looks awesome. But it's not really until things get dark where you really see just like how graphically insane this area looks. When you get down through the security gates and down into the basement and down by the furnaces, that's where this game looks really stunning and real. Thanks to the flames from the furnaces gently lighting the place, you see all these steam pipes, cobwebs, and just tons of details you would see in a big, gross industrial basement. I know we're just highlighting a basement, like it sounds really insignificant, but we're appreciating realistic graphics and design here, and this is definitely it. Next, over at number 4, Mafia Definitive Edition, another game that on the visual standpoint doesn't get enough love, but let's highlight the Saint and Sinner mission just because it shows you so much, and all of it is really detailed and good looking. The Saint and Sinner mission gives you like the hotel brothel area first. You get to walk around freely and explore the bar, check out all the ladies. There's dimly lit corners, there's cool classic pool tables. The bar looks shiny, the foliage in the hotel, the plants, the floor design, the columns, everything looks stunning. Then of course you take to the rooftops in a big action scene, and that's where things get even crazier just because you're running from rooftop to rooftop. All of these rooftops are highly detailed with vents, smokestacks, crates, garbage, fire escapes, dudes shooting at you, debris flying everywhere, all while you have this massive city in the background. It is pretty damn good looking, and again, it makes me say, like, this game gets overlooked a lot, but it looks damn good. Then, of course, you are taken from there to the church with that whole shootout, and the church looks great too. The stained glass windows, the shine on the floors, the quality of the wood, all of it. The Saint and Sinner mission in Mafia Definitive Edition is really just a good showcase of how realistic this game can look. Next, over at number 3, we have Yakuza Like a Dragon, the Yokohama district. Technically not really like a level, but we'll make an exception for this one because it's not really very massive, but it is focused. They definitely do quality over quantity here. The Yakuza games have always done that incredibly well, and Like a Dragon is no slouch. You have street signs everywhere, advertisements, bicycles, garbage cans, the level of detail, the shine on the streets, the glow of the neon. These games have nailed it for a long time, but this new one knocks it out of the freaking park, dude, especially if you look at it side by side with like the real version of this city and these districts. The developers really did a fantastic job here. Coming down to number 2, though, if we're talking Asian cities, we have to mention Hitman 3's Chongqing level. This is a small chunk of a Chinese city, just a few blocks, and you're doing your Hitman thing, but it is nothing short of downright jaw-dropping. I think, personally, it is the best-looking level in the game, probably one of the best-looking Hitman levels ever. thanks to all the rain effects, the neon, the details of the streets, the alleyways, the construction scaffolding, the civilians milling about doing their thing, the dark, dank, gross interiors. This area is firing on all cylinders, and you believe this is a real place when you walk down those streets. When you see people walking around, you can see this being a real thing, especially if you're playing on PC with all the settings cranked up. Hitman 3 is really an impressive game when it's running on 11, but regardless of where you play it, it's gorgeous and realistic. We also got an honorable mention, of course, Death in the Family, the England level. The manor you are in is incredibly detailed, down to the panes of glass, the marble floors, the detailed libraries, the smoky lounge areas. Everything is absolutely mind-blowing. But of course, at number 1, we have Red Dead Redemption 2. Again, this isn't an open world video, so we want to highlight a specific area, and we think one of the best showcases of the game's realistic graphics is Main Street Saint-Denis. This street is nothing short of jaw-dropping, whether you play it bright in the sunlight of the day or late at night by lamplight. This main stretch of the area shows you the best the game has to offer. An incredibly meticulously detailed turn-of-the-century city with streetcars, horses, people everywhere, balconies, businesses, real interiors, dusty streets, animals, creatures. It really is truly a sight to behold in motion. Yes, the whole game is, of course, but the raw focus on the specific area and the set of missions really blew us away and stuck with us. It looks so real. Yes, we weren't alive when this game took place, but when you look at this and you look at photographs from history, you'd believe it. That's number 1, but I do want to highlight one more bonus game. Resident Evil 2 Remake. The Raccoon City streets in the opening of the game are stunning. The way the fire projects on the streets, the detail of the alleyways, it actually lives up to the level of detail and quality of those pre-rendered backgrounds from the old Resident Evil 2, but makes it feel convincingly so much like a real place. The level area sequence only lasts like a couple minutes, but it is a visual feast. But that's the point, guys. We're talking about 10 game levels and specific areas with realistic graphics and visuals. Like we said, most importantly, this list could go on forever, so we want to hear your suggestions in the comments. Is there an area or a specific level in a game recently that just blew you away, tricked you? Maybe you thought it was real if you didn't know it was a game? Be sure to share your thoughts with us down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, consider clicking the like button so we can make more like this. We would really appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.